dear followers, subscribers, and our community members. Thank you for joining us today for this live discussion. As usual, we are committed to update you on issues with respect to Salafite. We are committed to tell you about business management. We want to grow together, building a community. And so today we are bringing to you a very interesting. We're discussing the topic business lessons we learned building Salafite. And so we want to tell you our story. We want to take you behind the scene, some of the things we did, some of the challenges we encountered, and how we overcome them. And as usual, we have with me in the studio one of the staffs of Salafite. Today we have Gong Marinus. And so he will be the one taking us via this session. And so if you have any questions, you drop it as we are monitoring our social media handles for any questions if you do have. And there is anything that you have, we'll be ready to take your questions here direct. So thank you and welcome to this edition, Mariners. Solafite is an accounting software. We come again to tell you the story and behind the name. But today our focus is principally on Solafite accounting as the lessons we learn. And we started Solafite somewhere, I think it was September 2022. And from September 2022, we have been working on it. And right now, we are in the market. And the journey so far has not been an easy one. The journey has been a very challenging one filled with difficulties, but we have been able to build what we have built without any external support, without any assistance. It has been uh, not as easy as somebody expect. And when we started, did we think that would be easy? When we expected it would be difficult. Did we find it more difficult than expected? Certainly. But are there surprises we all saw and things we discovered along the line that gave us the opportunity to keep going? Yes, there are so many things.
So, as CEO, I want to find out what is the biggest lesson you have learned about building a product that people will actually use for their businesses. What is your biggest lesson?
Okay, building a product that meets people's needs. One of the things I would say is that when you start building a product or a company, we start with a lot of enthusiasm. The early people that join the team, they're very excited. They're very happy for the vision. And you once you engage, you discover that the level of excitement goes down. Resources that were there from the start, they get finished. Especially it's a product that may take some time to get ready and maybe might not be generating revenue at that particular point. And so once the resources are no more there, enthusiasm will go down. Some challenges come that you did not envisage. For instance, when we started building, we discovered that we are building an accounting system. But then, an accounting is a whole profession with rules and regulation, principles and standards. And these standards are varied, they're vast and they're valid. And at the initial point, you thought it was just baby credit principle. You basically thought, but then you discover that there's so many other things that you will not take into account you did not know before. For instance, how do you manage closing, ending, closing period? How do you manage openings? How do you manage movement? How do invoices communicate with the accounting? How do purchases communicate with accounting? How do inventory communicate with? And all those relationships might not have been predefined to the best of what practice or what is in the field. Now, with such a big gap, it becomes very, very difficult to build an accounting system because there are so many parts, that are moving parts. There are so many things you have to deal with, managing aqua basis, managing cash basis, managing payroll, maybe payroll, prepaids, and receivables. There are so many parts. And so the first thing is that at the initial point, it seems easy. But when we start putting the parts together, they become very complex. Now, like I said, the immediate things that will come up when these challenges and difficulties come up, you see that the staff's motivation drops. They need motivation. Resources dry up. You look at the runway, it's completely zero. How do you keep going? The product is not ready. And you get to even some customers, the first people who are trying to use the system, they keep calling, this is not working. There are some challenges maybe from the customers because they've not understood the product. There are some challenges that are coming out from the product itself. And so you keep iterating and iterating until you get to something that is working. So in sum, there are varied challenges at different levels of customer building or product building that you need to understand. The early stage, the development stage, the deployment stage, the growth stage, the management stage, that you must understand these different challenges as a startup who is building any product, regardless whether it's accounting or regardless it's whatever system.
Thank you. Thank you. My next question is: after speaking with many businesses using Excel and other systems, what have you learned about understanding customers? What exactly have you learned?
Yes, we tried to, in working. One of the things that Solafy stands out is that we do not we do not sit and imagine the needs and challenges of clients. We did not just say this is what we want to build and we went ahead building. We talked with businesses, we talk with consultants, we work with different organizations, we hire people who are experts, discuss with them. And one thing we discovered is that when it comes to the use of Excel, so many businesses are using Excel, and because they're using Excel, they basically feel comfortable. They feel comfortable just because they don't know how costly it is when they are not able to track everything around the business. And so you meet a client who is using Excel and they're like, I'm already using Excel. One, Excel, I have it, I don't pay anything for it. And but you need to make the client see the value beyond the use of Excel. For instance, clients who are using Excel, they have to deal with multiple sheets. The data is disjointed. One Excel sheet might not be able to track products that are getting expired, might not be able to track the level of inventory, might not be able to report customers that are missing or customers that are due, might not be able to, even if you try to do the highest customization. A little touch in the Excel, in the formulas that you have used to even inbuild some of those functions, you will see that you find it difficult and they will keep facing such challenges. That if that was the only issue, we think that Excel is equally good, but Excel fails to give business visibility. It fails to give business the ability to scale, and it makes a lot of repetitive tasks. You cannot optimize as compared to a system that is designed to manage business. For instance, we talk about one aspect that a business, a good system needs to take is the aspect of traceability of what happened within the system. Now, for you to be able to trace who did what in an Excel sheet, for different users in a company to use Excel, it's pretty difficult. And so it becomes very, very difficult for me to create an invoice, for my manager to approve it, and for cashier to receive money in the same invoice real time. And so those are some challenges that Excel brings to the table. But most businesses or most those who are using Excel may say, okay, I already have something because they're doing the basic data or the basic data collection, but there's no intelligence inbuilt to see that this business you have prompt information. I will also tell you one client we met was an accountant, and so an accountant working, he contacted Solafite and said we needed a system, and so we started discussing. He went through, we did a demonstration on how Solafite functions, and he liked it. But when he talked with his boss, the boss is not even Cameroon, it's in the US. The boss listened and said, no, I don't think that we need a system. I'm comfortable with the way we are currently running. This is somebody who only gets reports maybe at the end of the month. This is somebody who doesn't know what happens in the business within each day. but he is not willing to make a change. And so the major challenge at times is not even about the system, is that change management, is that change that or our technology adoption that people may want to or may be unwilling to change how they have been doing things to adopt a new way that is more preferable, that is efficient, that is optimized, that allows workers to have ample time to do their operation rather than doing repetitive tasks.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. So my next question is: have you ever met someone who loves solar, a client that loves solar so much, understand its value, and still didn't buy it? And
Yes.
what did that experience teach you?
Now, again, what we learned is that there are customers. We have different categories of customers. There is a customer, for instance, there is a customer you have to talk with him or her for more than 10 to 20 times before the person will even think of buying the system. You talk to a customer and say, okay, I saw the system, I like it. Can we do a demonstration? Yes, you say, okay, let's get to a video call, Zoom meeting, and do a demonstration. Do a demonstration. Say, okay, I will get back to you in 2 weeks. Maybe 2 weeks, you write an email or you do a WhatsApp text and you try to, or you make a call and talk to the customer. Say, okay, let's have a meeting tomorrow. Tomorrow you have another meeting. You keep having meetings and meetings and meetings after demonstration, or you will say, okay, let's implement it so that we do a trial period and see. We implement the trial period and there is that keep that constant, maybe back and forth. This you use today, tomorrow you don't use it. Maybe the next 3 days you don't use it. You need to call and remind them and find out if they're using. No, they're not using. Network was not available when network come. Nobody bothered to use the system. There are such customers we found. So it tells us that somebody knows the customers know their challenge. They know their challenge very well. They know that Excel is broken. They know that they don't track everything. Their stock are missing. They understand that they can't really communicate with their business when they're out of the office. They know all of these issues very well. But are they willing to take on a new system that gives them those visibility, that control, that accessibility everywhere? No, they find most of them. Some of them are not willing, although they are facing challenges. Now we have the group of customers who say, hey, I saw your product and I like it. Tell me more. You give one or two sentences. Okay, can you do a demonstration? Do a demonstration. Say how much? You say, okay, this amount of money. I say, okay, give me a discount. You give, say, okay, this and that conversation ends within an hour. So, what did we learn? What have we learned? That there are different types of customers. You need to understand the customers that we come in, look at the product, like the product, and immediately subscribe for it. And there are customers that no matter what you do, they will not subscribe. They will keep lagging and lagging and lagging. How do you manage these customers? Well, some of them you need to know who. That's why we talk about a customer profile, the persona. You need to know the profile of your customer. And much more, know that only 3% of your customers are actually ready and willing to use the solution. The rest of 97, we need to go through that iteration process before they ever use it. Should you give up? Well, you don't necessarily need to give up. You need to convince him or her in different ways if you know that the customer's profile meets what your product is offering. And that's what we've learned. There are some that you have to talk multiple times to close a deal. There are some you have 2 meetings. There are some you have 20, 10, 5, 6, 7, 8 meetings before you can come to a deal. There are some that you will never close a deal with them. If you don't have that mindset and you don't understand this, you will get discouraged. You will want to stop what you are doing because one customer came, did not like the product, or came and complained about one thing and said, I will not use it, or you presented to the customer multiple times, the person was not willing to, and so you get discouraged. So, what is in short? There are various categories of customers. You need to know your customers, whether what there are some that are price sensitive, there are some that are ready to pay whatever, so long it gives them the value. There are different. So study your customer profiles to understand them, and also collect enough data about your customers so you start analyzing. And that's one thing that we see with our customer relationship model with Solafide is that we keep collecting the customers, who they are, what they do, and so on and so forth. It helps us to be able to filter and know customers are highly likely. What is the likelihood that we will close this deal? So even our salespersons, they talk to somebody and know that the likelihood of closing this deal is about 60, 70, 80%. It's indicated, so we know how to follow up. And somebody who came but is not willing, and maybe the interest is around 10%, we know, and so we are able to know how to manage the different categories of our customer. So that is what we have learned about customers and dealing and relationship with products, especially new products.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for that. And you have said quite a lot. So, my next question is, why do some customers make why do some customers make a buying decision almost immediate, while others take a month or even a year?
One of the things I've learned with respect to buying decision is that, like I said, 3% are ready of potential customers are ready, willing, and able to pay. They know their problem, they have been experiencing, and they're looking for the solution. They're actively looking for the solution. The rest, they know the problem, but they're not looking for the solution. They have been facing it and facing it for years. Now, some of those who are unwilling, for instance, we're dealing with B2B, and B2B solutions at times is more difficult to buy a B2B product than people think. Not that the person who contacted the organization doesn't want the product. He or she must have heard about the product, like the product will reduce burden for her or for him. But the challenge is that there is a lot of procedure. We have a client, you have a meeting with one-on-one, discuss with the client needs to revert back to the board needs to sit and have a discussion. And when they have a discussion, they get back. And when they give the feedback, maybe you have to disagree, or there are some aspects that needs to be adjusted, there are some things that need to be explained. You see that there is a process that takes, especially with B2B. It is not like a B2C or direct consumer product that maybe I see something, I like it, I just go ahead and buy. So the B2B process is more complex, and so buying for a B2B product is more difficult. Now, let me explain the aspect of buying a B2B product is difficult. Now, if you're an accountant, you don't want to buy a software for the organization that will not be able to give the organization uh, one, correct results. Two, you don't want to be blamed, because if you go and get a wrong product and it was costly bringing this product, what happens? You may lose your job. So the person who is trying to buy equally quickly wants to be vindicated that I'm not the one who bought this product. And so there is that procedure. So there are multiple factors that you see that some clients will take a long period of time. That's why I say you have to study your clients, know how their decision making process works, especially if it's a big organization, and know who has the power to take a final decision. And at the same time, know that different parties are involved. You want to bring in accounting department was a system, but the human resource department has a system that they think that's comfortable for them. But accounting thinks that if we are able to function, we need a whole system that where all the entire data is in a single database, and we are certain that we can correlate data and make better decisions. But the human resource department doesn't think the same. They don't even want to. And so you see that there are a lot of frictions, different moving parts when it comes to getting a business or especially an enterprise resource planning solution for an organization. Now, again, some customers are fast, they see it, they needed it, and they pay. But some take process, and some take process because the organization has a process. Some take process because at the end of the day, they are dragging their face. They know the problem, they're facing it, but should they pay for it? And also the willingness to adopt the technology, they are finding it, they don't, a lot of things interplay. That's what we learned.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. That's quite clear. That's real. Every adoption is always a problem. Okay, my next question. What has building SolarFi taught you about the difference between having a good product and actually being able to sell it?
Wow, that is one of the most interesting questions. Building a product is one thing. Selling it is a different answer, different, completely different ballgame. And what we have learned, I've personally learned, is that you may have the best product in the world and you still don't make money. It's not because your product is bad, it's because there is no direct link between the product capabilities and the marketplace. So, if you are building a product, you also have to think in a multi-dimensional approach. What do I mean by multi-dimensional? Marketing needs to be involved in the product so that they understand the nitty-gritties of the product and how to communicate to potential clients. The second thing is that apart from marketing, needs to be a community around the product. People who understand the product. For instance, if we have an accounting system, so we're building other accounting community where uh, others can use the system, others can handle customer dissatisfaction. such that if you have an issue, instead of getting only to the company, you can get to anybody who has learned to use the system and manage the system to help in that process. And so you discover that building a product is one thing, but building a product that sells is a completely different thing. And building a product that meets customer need is much more difficult. And having to sell a product is not about selling the features that the product has. It's about understanding the needs of the customer. And one thing is to know that customers do not make decisions based on facts. They make most decisions from an emotional perspective. Then they can justify now with facts. So that is very, very vital for you building a new product and for you getting to the market. And getting to the market, again, we have said you need to understand the profiles of your customer. There are some times that you have to change the product or modify the product. There are some times that you have to change. For instance, we have changing the product or changing the profiles of your customer. There are different factors that you need to take into account. Now, if you see some products that do well, we look at a product like uh, let's say the case of X, formerly Twitter. The product was changed from Twitter to X and it's still doing well. Why? Because this product has already attained what we call a network effect. So the network effect principle is that the more people get into the ecosystem, the more the product becomes useful, such that the company may even fall and that product still stays alive simply because people have become accustomed, the value has increased. So any product you are building, you need to create a community and build a kind of a network relationship. We will be discussing business management where we discuss different aspects. But since we are more focused today, I might not go in to discuss the principles of network effect, how you can implement it, how it affects adoption of technology, and many other things. But we'll be discussing in our subsequent videos. That's why I said if you're joining us for the first time, please do like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that anytime we are live, you will be notified so that we can study and understand how to manage our business. So that you will be able to, we're not only talking about Solarfight, we'll be talking about business management principles we have learned and things you can do to optimize your business at every level, whether it's a small business, it's a big organization. This is because working with different companies and building an enterprise solution has given us a lot of inside knowledge to the different parts of every different parts of an organization or department. Is it accounting? Is it purchases? Is it sales? Is it maybe sales and invoicing? Is it human resource? Is it payroll? So we have some inside knowledge because we have to work in these different departments, in these different sectors, and to be able to bring to you real knowledge that is useful for your organization.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Um, Thank you very much. My next question is: in the course of building, why don't you just ask customer what features do you like, what features will fit your organization? Just make that request, then you go for the feature building. Why do you seek to carry out research and build like you want to surprise customers?
When we're building Solarfight, one of the things we learn is that, like we say, customers understand their problem, but most often they don't know the solution to their problem. That's a common issue. I know that I come and I check my expenses and they're pretty high, but how can I manage the expenses to reduce them? I come and discover that my products are not the way I expected, inventory products are missing. That is a problem. But how do I prevent product from getting missing? A customer contacts me and say I need an estimate. I go to Excel. Anytime I go to Excel to try to create, I'm looking for a fast way that I can get to this customer, get a purchase, a pro forma to my client in the shortest possible way. I want it to be shorter, simple, and easy. But that is a problem. But how can I get it? And so when you go to customers to get your problem. But providing a solution that meets their need is much more beyond the customer. Now, if you have listened to Steve Jobs, which he made a very important philosophy. Steve Jobs' philosophy was that customers do not really know what they want. And when they get it, when they see it, they'll be amazed how they live with that. So customers, they have their challenges, but they don't know the solution. But when they see the solution, they'll be amazed how they live without that solution. I'll give a simple example. Today, everybody's AI, AI, AI. Everybody's using ChatGPT is the talk of the day. Everybody's trying to use AI to do one thing or the other. But believe me, before 2022 or 20, I think ChatGPT started in 2023 or 2024 November or so, around when it becomes public. OpenAI released it, if I'm not making a mistake. Everybody, there were people who were doing things the way they were. They're very comfortable. You go on Google, you search, and you collect that information. But today, it's just ChatGPT. You just go there. You have a question you ask, and it gives you a ready-made answer. Unlike before, did we not suffer when we were using search as just search as it was then? Everybody was very comfortable. Whether it was difficult or not, they were using it as such. So if you have depended on the client will not tell you that I need a system where you can just ask questions and get responses. This needs to come back from the building team. It needs to be an internal research. It needs to be a lot of reflection. It needs to be a lot of deep thinking. And that's the same philosophy that we had when we were building Solafy. That when we understand customer problems, we understand their problems very well. We try as much as possible to bring them the solution and to bring the solution in a way that they will like it, they will find it and say, how did I live? For instance, if you have been taking data from Excel, from QuickBooks to Excel, or from Search to Excel to do your report, and now you just come to and you have a click with a click of a button and you have a solution. That saves you a lot of time and energy. Well, the client was using it before as such. It was difficult facing challenges. But if you ask the client how to solve it, the client will say, no, I don't. But if you bring two things, they will say, okay, if you bring Solafy and QuickBooks and have to do the same task, they will know, okay, wow, Solafy does it faster and simpler. But if you allow it to the client will be very comfortable. So, and to make this question, customers know their problem, but most often they don't know the solution. They are very good with the problem, but they're not good with the solution. And so the solution part comes from the company or comes from the product developers, the product managers, the developers to work together to talk to clients and understand their problem and see what can best serve their interests.
Okay, thank you for that. So my next question is, what has building Solafy taught you about competing with established solutions such as Excel, the QuickBooks, the Sage, and the Odoo?
Yes, the first thing is about building a software. There are numerous softwares, and you need to have a mindset that while there are as many solutions out there as possible, your solution must solve a unique problem. Now we are solving by default and native, practically the first system that have solved the harder problem. And how did we solve the harder problem? We said instead of struggling to adopt and adapt QuickBooks, adapt Search, Odoo, Excel. There are others like Banana and many other solutions that we have out there. We said the most important thing is to build a system that understands this business. We talk about their chart of account as an organization. Each organization that runs needs to have a chart of account. You should not have a chart account that expected by the compliance organization, which is harder, and we are struggling with Odoo. No. So we identify a niche and build based on that niche. Now, when building the solution, you have to know how to think from the user perspective. You don't think from the development perspective. You have to think from the user's perspective so that your solution comes in to solve a real problem. I will still go back to the issue of the use of chat GPTs or the AIs today to create content, to develop articles, to to create music. Before we were using, but when there are existing solutions and you want to come in, you must be different, better, right? You must seek to be not only different and better and exceptionally different, significantly. If your solution is just better, maybe just you just have a 2%, 3%, you can't win in the market. You cannot win with already proven leaders. For instance, if you were to compete with QuickBooks and it's the only thing you're saying that you're bringing in another invoicing, then you cannot win. QuickBooks has been tested and proven. But you must bring in something that is more valuable than just creating what is there. And that is how we came into building something that is uniquely different. We're not just bringing in another software, another enterprise solution. We're bringing in something that's uniquely different from a compliance perspective. And we also build it from the perspective of looking at the complaints from most of the users of Search. is that it's complex. Using search is complex. It's difficult. We say no. One of the things we are bringing in the models of the term model, which talks about technology adoption, that there is that friction between ease of use and we talk of ease of use, conveniency, acceptance, and things like that. We see that you must build something that is easy to use and is useful. So we are bringing in that aspect of ease of use and usefulness into our technology. Now, I want to share something about enterprise solutions. If you look at most enterprise solutions, we discovered that they were designed for functionality much more rather than the beauty and the simplicity. And that is because those who actually pay for this solution, they're not really bothered whether they don't care the usability part of it, they don't care how user friendly it should be. The CEO who's paying for his software, for accounting software, is not the one. So I don't know, I've seen an accounting software, I pay for it. But the accountant who is using the software is struggling with it every day, making challenges, this and that. So we have blend the aspect of functionality, meet what the customer wants, and user friendliness as a core principle in our building. Because you must go to a point where you make your client to see that this is not only solving a problem, it's making his or her life easy, making his or her life noble, and making the usage let me say addictive, right? Yes, there should be that kind of addictive usage of the product, and that is a core principle that successful softwares bring to the table. We have the Googles, the ChatGPTs, and the rest. They are good example. If you look at a product like Apple or smart Apple phones, one of the things is that they build them in such a way that as you start using, you want to use more of it. And such philosophies and principles are very, very useful when building.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you for that. Now at least now I know what Solafite is here for and exactly what distinguishes it from the existing. So my next question is, what has been one of the most difficult moments in building Solafite and what kept you going?
Oh, uh, the building of Solar Fight, I must say, has not been an easy one. I started by explaining the zeal that we started out with, and as the process goes, the resources you had, they get finished. No dime is coming in. You're still in the building, maybe the early stage. The resources in terms of the financial resources, and so it comes now. Once that happens, the second thing that comes in is that those employees you started with, some of them get discouraged and move away. Some of them get discouraged. They seem not to be seeing what you are seeing, and so they seem not to be seeing what maybe the organization is trying to achieve. And at times the process is very challenging. They have a lot of other pressing issues and taking too long for a product to get ready. Not everybody can endure that, and so you see staffs who were there, they go away. You see resources that were there, they get finished. You see some customers who get the product and the product is still midway, not fully ready. They get discouraged and maybe say, we will not use it. They move on to other solutions and the energy goes down. There are moments you are like, how I wish I did not even embark on this. And haven't studied others who have built anything useful, haven't listened to stories of those who have built successful company, you'll find that this is a natural process for every product. This is a natural process. And so, but what keeps you going? Now, there are multiple things that keeps you going. One is the promise of the future. You see the future that most people may not see. You see, you see the challenges that you are trying to solve still there on daily basis. You see some customers who are there struggling to use it no matter the difficulties they're facing, and it keeps you motivated. You equally see the vision that God gave you, and so you see that like Salafite, it is like I said, I will share the history behind or the name Salafite, and if you check, you discover that it's faith alone, and that says a lot about the whole system. Is that it's not built on the physical visibility or what you see. It's about seeing something that the world has not seen, and you are the one to bring it forth with a team that believes in it. And so one good thing about the whole process is that the team that believes in it, those who believes in it, those who see it, those who also they're willing to go through the difficult moments, and we went through, and we are here. We are not saying that at the end of the day we have achieved the optimum success, but that we have gone through that phase where you want to completely say this is not necessary. When you start having customers that are using it, you get a different feeling that at least there is something that the dream that started as a play, something that started from a conversation, something that you are also facing has come to a state of somebody finding it, coming to open it every day to do something within it, and that gives you joy. But then that is just half the solution, and that's just half the challenge. When they're using, you have to also listen to them. You have to continue iterate and keep improving and improving every blessed day, so that at every point in time the customers have a wow experience. And we are always looking for a wow experience to our clients when they're using it. You may not use the system, but you cannot say that the system is not so that wonderful. We try as much as possible to get the system that if you decide to use it, you have a wide experience. And that makes us to go further beyond just listening to customers, doing a lot of research, a lot of background studies, a lot of in-depth analysis to arrive at giving the customer what they want. So that is the whole challenges and process and how we manage it.
Okay, thank you. So let me give you this last one, quick one. So, what is one thing you believe about business today that you didn't believe when you were starting the solar price development team or the process?
Okay, since that is the last question, it's a whole loaded question. We might not take it completely today. What have I learned? One of the first things, put simply, I've learned about business before now is that technology plus people empowered equals to organizational excellence. Businesses that have succeeded, they have given value, they value their customers, they value their employees or their workers, and they empower them with the needful technology that will give them the best results. That I did not know before. Now, if you want to succeed as a business, you must adopt technology. And one of the key things that we are bringing to businesses, we say that collect your data because you will need this data tomorrow to analyze and track and know how you can optimize the services you are delivering. Any business that is still redundant, using notebooks, using Excel, not using yeah, you can use Excel, but you should be able to collect holistic data from different aspects of your organization, so that tomorrow when you want to bring in AI, accept it or not, AI has come to stay, and businesses that will win in the future will be those who will use their own data, mine their own data rather than depending on generic tools. So you must be collecting your data now so that you start analyzing it to know where your customers and optimizing the systems. Now, one of the things I've also learned, or we have learned in the process that I don't know, is that business is a system. Business is a system. And what do we mean by system? System have inputs, it has processes, and have outputs. And until you optimize the processes, no matter the output cannot give you exactly what you want. And so each organization must think of what they are doing as a whole system and work to ensure that this system is so much, is all the different elements of the system. If one aspect of the system is weak, then the whole system will suffer defect. For instance, if you have great employees with wrong tools, they cannot be organizational efficiency. If you have the best tools with employees' poor attitude towards the tools, they cannot be organizational efficiency. Now, if you have a lot of money and you still don't have systems, that money will not give you the best. So it's a whole system, and for you to succeed, for any organization to succeed, they must also see this as a system and build their systems, sorry. And the systems, is it the human resource system? Is it the payroll system? Is it the accounting system? Is it the sales system? Is it the finance and money management system? You must build these systems. You must protect this. And a system also tells us that the business is an independent entity, and every independent entity has to be able to know their state at what point and how they're operating. If you were just operating and by guesses, well, you will still be succeeding. Because one of the challenges we discovered, one of the things we discovered is that out there, clients understand their challenges, but their familiarity and doing it the way they have been doing it keeps them there. They have been doing this thing for 10 years. We use Excel for 10 years. We're running. So why get a new system? But the truth is that maybe, which to a greater extent is true, you have not grown beyond where you are because you have been doing it the same way day in, day out. You need a system that is more efficient, that is optimized, that is, we have automation and beyond in the system. And that creates you a lot of time. Take, for instance, an accountant who has been spending 40 or 60 hours a week trying to do accounting journal, who has to come in now, maybe in a week, and maybe spend 10 hours to review all what has been done and have effective. You have already saved the accountant 40 hours to focus on something else that could be useful for that organization. This translates to huge revenue, and so you can grow better. So in sum, that is how what I've learned. And to go, we want to thank you for being part of this episode of our discussion. We'll be creating this so just like, subscribe, so that we keep bringing to you real-time knowledge about business management, about Solafy community and the opportunities. And also, we are expanding to other parts of the world, to other parts of Africa. We want to, people, if you can partner with us, if you are in Cote d'Ivoire, you are in Senegal, in any part of the other country, and you want to be implementing partner of Solafy, you'll be welcome. If you know that you can sell, you can convince organizations to use Solafy, you can pitch to them and sell. You can also contact us and we'll work together and we can build a community. I think that that will be a whole revenue on money making machine for you if you have the ability and willing to join the team. Until then, thank you for being part of this episode. Like, subscribe, and see you in the next episode. X bad for how strong for push.
Are you sure you don't need internet? But you're in now, so why off internet?
Yeah, and yeah, I see the stream down.